You keep showing up when you feel overlooked. You keep trusting God. You keep trusting His timing even when yours is running out. Even when you don't feel trust, keep trusting. Even when you don't feel like to showing up, keep showing up. Even when you don't feel like exercising your faith, even if it's tiny, small, keep exercising your faith. Stand. That's what stand means. Hey there, legacy makers. I hope you guys are doing fantastic. I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for showing up again, for viewing, for watching. It really means a lot. And not only that, but I believe that you are being a part of what we are trying to accomplish in this podcast is to empower men, for men to believe and to understand that they actually are building their own legacies. So every time that you share with somebody, you give them the tools for them to continue to grow in their walk with God, in their walk as men, as they develop, as they continue to mature as men. So thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for commenting. And thank you so much for watching. I hope that this podcast, Legacy Makers, is impacting your life in some way, shape, or form. My desire and the desire of me doing this podcast is to help every man build a lasting legacy that will honor God, that will strengthen their families, and that will impact generations to come. So thank you again. I am Roger Salazar, your host. Today, I want to tackle something that I believe is very, very, very important amongst men. Very, very important for us to truly grasp this concept, this idea. And it's called stand as men in the midst of disappointment. Standing as men in the midst of disappointment. Because let's be honest, every one of us has faced moments in our lives when things didn't go the way that we planned them to go. The job may have fallen through, the relationship may have not worked, the opportunity might have slipped away, the prayer that we've been praying for didn't get answered the way that we hoped that would get answered. So those are the moments, those specific moments when things like that are happening. The question that we should ask is not why this thing didn't happen. Why did this thing that didn't take place? Why is this not came through for me? The question that we should be asking is, who do I want to be in the midst of this thing that is causing me to be disappointed? What person do I want to become when things don't go the way that I hoped they were going to go? Because we got to understand this, that if you are in this journey called life, at one point or another, you will be disappointed. And that does not mean that God has abandoned us. It actually is proof that you actually are walking. The fact that you are disappointed, that means that you are alive. There was something inside of you that have faith to believe for something, for an outcome that you may have. If you experience disappointment, maybe that you were hoping and have faith that you were going to get a better job. That means that you're alive. That is the proof that you are disappointed. It means that you are actually exercising your muscle of faith. Think about this. And I know some of you are getting a little bit confused, but think about this. The greatest men that lived in this planet faced disappointment in their lives. David, for instance, David was anointed to be king as a teenager. But before he received the crown, many, many years have to go by, and he actually faced caves before he even experienced the throne that was promised to him. Before that, before the throne, before the palace, betrayal came to his life. Loneliness came to his life. Delayed on the promises came to his life. In fact, David cries to God, "How long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me?" You can almost hear in his voice that brokenness, that disappointment, that sincerity to say, "Lord, how long are you going to put me into this hard situation before you give me what you promised me?" That's not a sign that he was weak. That is actually the opposite. That was a sign of that he was honest. Real men don't suppress their disappointments. They bring it before God. How many of you have experienced some disappointment in your life? And many of us just suppress it, just push it down like it doesn't even exist. We push it to the side. I've done it. I've done it many, many times. You know, I've been trying to develop this relationship with this new business partner relationship, and they decided they don't want to do business with me anymore. And I've been working with them for over a year. Always there, always quick to answer, always provided the highest level of service. In fact, if you can ask them today, they're going to tell you, I've never was late on any deliver of my product to them ever. I was always, if not early, I was always on time. I spent money on them, taking them to the nicest place to eat, to talk about business, strategize about business, and yet, for no reason at all, they left our partnership. They decided they don't want to do business with me. No word, no reason behind it. And you know what? That hurt. But instead of suppressing that disappointment, I had to bring it to God and say, Lord, I don't know what I did, but can you show me what did I do to cause them to walk away from our partnership relationship? Because we got to understand this. Disappointment is a crossroads. It can drive us into isolation, into this self-pity, or it can draw us into intimacy with God, the Creator, who can do something about the disappointment that we felt. But we got to make a decision. We can go and be isolated and trying to figure out why woe is me, why this happened to me, or it can drive us into create a deeper relationship with God. It's that simple, guys. It's that simple. So we all are going to experience disappointment. It's part of life. But what we do with disappointment, what we do with this thing called disappointment is going to shape our character. Now, many of us go into this withdrawing, right? Most men don't like to deal with disappointment. And so what they do is they go quiet, they shut down, they hide behind their work, they go to the gym, or even on their phone, they scroll. They just don't want to deal with the hurt, the disappointment created in their lives. We tell ourselves as men, hey, it is what it is. But deep down, deep down, is not, this is what it is. It's a pain that we have not processed. It's a pain that we have internally. And the enemy loves when you go into the silent mode. Because when you go into the silent as men, you become a disconnected husband, a distant father, or a distracted leader. Think about this. When Adam fell, what did he do? He hid himself. When Elijah was burned out, he ran into a cave. When Peter denied Jesus, what did he do? He went fishing. God didn't leave them there. He came looking for them. He asked Adam, where are you? He whispered to Elijah, what are you doing here? He restored Peter with the words, do you love me? So God is asking the same questions. Where are you? What have you been doing? What have we been doing with our disappointment? The fact is that you've been disappointed. Someone disappointed you. Some situation disappointed you. Sometimes you probably disappointed yourself. What are you doing with that? Because God is asking you, where are you? I want to talk about this. I want to talk about what you're feeling. I want to talk about what's going on in your life. I want to talk about what's happening. You know, some of us are disappointed with our government. Some disappointed with the finances. Some are disappointed with the way that we expected our wife to react when we did something and they didn't. We expected our kids to act in a certain way and they don't. I'm disappointed. You know, it is a real thing, guys. Being disappointed is something that you and I have to understand that we're going to deal with it. That's something that we have to face. But when God comes and asks you, where are you? Don't hide your disappointment to the one who can heal it. Face it. Show it. Say, hey, you know what? This is what's been going on. This is what the person did to me. This is what I thought this person was going to do and didn't do. This is what I expected this person to do. This is what I expected out of the work that I put in, what to get out. This is what I desire from this situation. This is what I was hoping for. And you on and on and on, you begin to bring your disappointment to the one that actually can do something about it. But hiding is not going to help you. Adam hiding when he was hidden, what did that do for him? When Elijah was in the cave, what did that do for him? When Peter was up there feeling sorry for himself fishing, what did that do for them? But God comes and asks and finds you and says, where are you? What's going on? Let's talk about what you're feeling. And when you do that, there is something supernatural happen. And I want you to know, I want you to understand something. I want us to truly dive into something today, guys. We have to stand as men in the midst of disappointment. You have to take a stand in the face of disappointment. And that is a hard thing for many men to do, because it's better to crawl into a corner and feel sorry for ourselves than stand in the midst of disappointment. Ephesians said it after you have done it all, after you've done everything, after you accomplish everything, stand. Standing doesn't mean pretending everything is okay. Please hear me. It doesn't mean that, okay, well, I'm just going to push it to the side. I'm going to act like everything is fine. No. It means you stay planted in your faith, even when you don't see fruit. You know, I have been asking and praying and seeking for the Lord to heal my daughter, and it has not happened. And there is days that I feel very, very disappointed. Very disappointed in God, very disappointed in his promises. And I go and I feel hurt, but I continue to come back and stand on the faith, even if it's a small faith, even if I don't see fruit. You continue to stand. I stay planted in the faith because he's done it before for me. He came through for me before. He has answered my prayer before. He has come before. So I know he's going to do it. I know he has a plan. But if I don't see it, I'm going to continue to stay planted in the faith that he has given me. You keep showing up when you feel overlooked. You keep trusting God. You keep trusting his timing even when yours is running out. Even when you don't feel to trust, keep trusting. Even when you don't feel like to showing up, keep showing up. Even when you don't feel like exercising your faith, even if it's tiny, small, keep exercising your faith. Stand. That's what stand means. Standing is not passive. Standing is a warfare. You are pushing through the doubts. You're pushing through the confusion. You're pushing through what feels overwhelming in your life. You're pushing through the darkness of the enemy that's trying to throw at you. When the storm hits, the man who stand is not the loudest. He's the one that is more grounded. When the storm hits, it's not going to be, okay, what looks beautiful. It's going to be what has the strongest foundation. Where is your foundation? Where is my foundation? Maybe you didn't get a promotion, guys. Maybe the relationship that you hope it was going to be for a lifetime ended. Maybe the healing that you've been praying for has not come yet, but you can still stand. And if you stay faithful, stay humble, stay in the fight, God will use that disappointment to shape your destiny. Because we got to understand this, God is using everything for his glory. He's using everything because he has a plan and a purpose. You don't see the plan. I don't see the plan. But the reality is that he has a plan. We got to believe that. If we don't believe that, what do we believe in? He has a plan. You know, sometimes you're teaching your kids to do something and your kids have to go through a disappointment. But that doesn't mean that you hate them. That means that you have a plan for them, even though they feel disappointed. I don't know if it has happened to you when, you know, your kid wanted something for Christmas and unfortunately you could not afford it. So you gave them something else. They felt disappointed. But you know what? It's not you didn't give them what they wanted because you hated them or you've been mad at them, because circumstances did not allow you to give what you want to give. And you can use that moment to shape their character, to shape their, to create gratitude on them, that not because they want it, it's going to come to their life. So God is using that. Maybe the things that you've been asking and hoping for are not coming through, but you can still stand. You can still be faithful. You can still humble yourself and say, I am not in control. You are in control. And you stayed in the fight. You continue to ask. You continue to pray. You continue to seek. You continue to reach out to him who has the world in the palm of his hand. What does disappointment reveals in our lives? It reveals dependence. Sometimes God allows disappointment to remove false dependencies. You and I may be asking and hoping for a better job because we believe that our job is our provider. But in reality, Jehovah Jireh is our provider, and he wants to show you that. Maybe you thought that a person completed you, but what God wants to tell you is that I'm the one who can complete you. I'm the only one that can complete you. You probably thought that success was what defined you. And what defines you is not your success or what you accomplish, it's who you are in God. And you are a son. Your sonship defines who you are. God said, my grace is sufficient. My power is made perfect in your weakness. You have weakness. I have weaknesses. There's things in our lives that continue to bring us down and continue to oppress us, to show us how weak and feeble we are. But that disappointment, even in yourself, does not destroy your faith. What it does when you feel disappointed, it means it actually refines your faith because it strengthens even deeper your faith. When you feel disappointed of someone, then what you do is you focus on the only one that deserves your praise, that deserves your attention, that deserves your life. So it refines you. It doesn't define you. It doesn't destroy. It's not going to destroy the man that God is trying to build inside of you. It's refining that man that God is calling inside of you. Many of us need to understand that we are going to experience valleys in our life. Sometimes when things just seem so dark, gloomy, desolated, desertic, but that is where the foundation gets tested. When we feel a loss of something that we've been asking for, when we feel that loss, is where our character is proven. What is going to come out of us? What is going to surface from our heart when we feel a loss? When God says no, what is God doing? He's preparing you for his yes. God answers no, not yet, and yes. Sometimes his no is because he wants to provide you a bigger yes. But sometimes the no, even though disappoints you, is to prevent a pain in your life that you didn't know it was on the other side of the mountain. So when you are dependent on something, when you are depending on your job, on people, on the situations in your life, you may not even know that you are depending on those things. You may not even know that you are depending on this to be can be perfect in your life until you experience a disappointment that reveals that dependence on those things. Our dependence cannot be on things, cannot be on people, cannot be on circumstances, cannot be on outcomes. Dependence has to be on him, and we have to release him the power to do what is best. We cannot control this. God is not a genie. God is not a genie that we just answer me, and then God answers anything you want. God has a complete and 100% your life in the palm of his hand. And he has a purpose. He has a plan. His plans are not your plans. His plans are not by far the plans that you and I have. And that's why you and I will get disappointment. Because we're hoping on things, we're hoping on situations, we're hoping on circumstances instead of him, and release him with humility, saying, do what you have to do. This is what desire of my heart is, but I believe and trust that you have the best of me at heart. And one thing I want to say to all of us guys, because this is something that many of us as men don't understand, how important it is to have a community. Because standing doesn't mean that you stand alone. Every warrior needs a brother in the fight with him. Remember, I don't know if you remember that, but there was a time where Moses, the Israelites were fighting against the Amalek. And Moses was on the top of the mountain praying for the fight. And Moses, every time he raised his arms, the people of Israel begin to overcome Amalek. But the moment his arms came down, they began to lose against Amalek. So what happened was 2 men held Moses' arms so the victory could be theirs. Aaron and Hur held them up, knowing that if they could help him, he will be able to keep his arms, and then the battle will be won. You need men in your life that will hold you up when you are weary, when you're tired, when you're fatigued, when you can't take one more step. You need men who are going to run to you and they're going to begin to lift up your arms, to begin to lift you up when you are down, when you lift you up when you feel that you're fading away. Men who remind you who are you when you forget who you are in Christ. You are a son of the living God, and sometimes you forget that. You need men to remind you that. Men who call you to a higher place in your journey when disappointment tries to pull you lower. Legacy is not built in isolation. Please understand that, guys. No matter how much you want to, legacy is not going to build in isolation. It's built in brotherhood. So you need to, I say this almost every episode. You need to find a circle of men, a circle that will get real with you, that will pray together with you, because when men stand together, hell begins to tremble. So you need a brother. You're disappointed right now? Call your brother. Are you frustrated because things are not going the way that you thought they were going to go? Call your brother. Talk to God, call your brother. Talk to God, call your brother. Talk to God, call your brother. Super important to understand that you can only stand when you have a community around you to lift you up when you don't have the strength to lift yourself up. On last week, I've been dealing with, like I said, I've been dealing with finances and my daughter's health. I've been praying, I've been asking, I've been seeking the Lord. I've been doing everything that I can, that I'm big enough to do. And I pray, and then I pray, and I pray again. But last week I met with one of my guys that is in my circle. And I began to tell him how frustrated I was. I began to tell him how disappointed I was. And he was there to listen, but he was there to encourage me and to remind me who I am in Christ. Do you have those men in your life, guys? You got to realize that you cannot do it alone. You cannot do it alone. And guys, good news. Redemption is on the other side. God never wastes disappointments. If you let him come into your life, he will turn your greatest heartbreaking into your greatest ministry. I'm going to say that again. If you let God be God in your life, he will turn your greatest heartbreak into your greatest ministry. You're like, Roger, what the heck are you talking about? Remember Joseph? His brothers meant to destroy him, to kill him. Imagine the disappointment that he had on each one of those brothers. Imagine a disappointment when he was, after working so hard, he was thrown into prison. Imagine the disappointment when the people in prison didn't tell Pharaoh about him and he stayed there. But what did he tell his brothers? What you meant for evil, God meant it for good. But that is legacy, guys. Joseph didn't deny the pain that he felt. He reframed it through his purpose. He understood that even in the disappointments, God was showing up for him. He was able to give his disappointment to the Lord. So what if your disappointment is actually God's redirecting you? What if the door that was closing in your life and you're so frustrated about was actually protection and not rejection from God? What if the not yet right now that you're feeling, that you're experiencing right now is setting you up for something much greater than what you imagine? I have to believe that. I have to believe that God has a plan and a purpose even in disappointments. Because the Bible says God works all things together for good for those who love God, who are called according to his purpose. And let me just say this to all of you who are listening, guys. I don't know what disappointment you are facing right now. I don't know. I don't know if you've been praying for a miraculously healing in your own body, your wife, your kids, your mom, your dad. I don't know if you've been praying for healing, for a new job, for your finances, and you're struggling. I don't know if you've been praying for a change in your habits or a change in those addictions that are inside of you. I don't know what your disappointment and what your disappointment you're walking in right now. But I know this, even in that, you can stand in the midst of that disappointment. You can stand because you're not standing on your feelings. You're standing on your faith. You're not standing on your strength. You're standing on his grace. You're not standing alone. You're standing with your brothers who believe in you. who believe in what God says you are. Don't let disappointment redefine you. Let it develop you. Your legacy isn't built in a good times. Legacy is forged in the fire. It's being shaped in the fire. So stand tall, my brother. Stand firm. And remember this. The man who stands through disappointment becomes the man that God trusts, that God can trust with a destiny. What is your destiny? What kind of legacy you want to leave behind? A legacy that when disappointment comes your life, you go to a corner, that you give up, that you gave up, or legacy that is built on God, the rock of our salvation. And I want to remind you, the legacy begins in a moment, and sometimes those moments are essential. And right now, your legacy is being written. Are you deciding to fall, to crawl into a corner, or to stand, even in the midst of disappointment? So guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And above all, thank you so much for sharing with somebody who may be feeling disappointed today and has to be reminded that he can stand in the midst of disappointment. Please share it, comment, and like it, because that helps us to reach as many men as possible. Until then, I encourage every one of you guys to stand strong, stay faithful, and keep building your own legacy. God bless you, and I'll talk to you soon.